What's going on, boys and girls? It's me, Ben DPB, back with another Ben Meets, and I've got my first of many to come, hopefully, American guest. Is none other than Gendo. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Ben. Thanks for having me on.
The first American on the show, how do you feel?
I feel like it's a great honor to break the ice over here across the pond to become your first American talking on Ben Meets, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot to talk about, especially regarding football and FM over here.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it. We've recently had the FM 18 video come out. Have you seen that?
I did. I saw not just the FM video, the general video, but I've seen a whole bunch of reaction videos of all the
Yeah.
different creators coming out with it. I personally am not going to make a video regarding it because I feel like everyone else has got that covered. So go and check everyone else out. But yeah, looking at it and taking a look at all the features and whatnot, I think it's gotten me interested. It has piqued my interest. Of course, I'm sure there's going to be more videos coming out in the coming days and weeks to get even more interest and to flesh out some other details of FM18. But for right now, with what they've shown, with the dynamics and the extra scouting on top of that, it has gotten me curious about what they are going to do with this game.
If the stadiums look as good in that video behind Work the Space as they do in the game, I'm going to be very, very impressed. Because if you watch Work the Space when he's talking, as you've probably seen, there's a little video in the background of a stadium that you can see in 3D, and it looks like a FIFA video. It looks that good. So if we can get something like that in the game, and that's not just some random 3D footage, then I'm going to be very, very happy. Because I've always been a little bit disappointed with the stadiums, and you get it really weird when you've got one small stadium, one really, really big size of the stadium. It never looks realistic. So I'm hoping we get a little bit of interaction, and the stadiums and whatnot looking a little bit better. I mean, we had that old feature many moons ago where you can have a statue named after you and so on. So I'd like to see that sort of stuff brought back into the game as well. That's something I'm hoping they can bring back. But we'll get back into that later. I can waffle on forever like I normally do. So before we jump into my favourite part of the show, the icebreaker questions, why don't you give yourself a shout out of your social media, your YouTube, or your Twitter, your Twitch, all that sort of stuff for us. So maybe talk a little bit about your upcoming vlogs for the Chicago Fire.
Right. So if you want to find out about those Chicago Fire vlogs, you can go check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/GendoFM. And what I'm doing right now is I have no more saves for Football Manager on YouTube, but I'm still doing my Chicago Fire vlogs where I travel to the Chicago Fire home matches, record how they do, and just give my commentary on it. And right now, the Chicago Fire are just on the verge of making the playoffs, so hopefully we get some Chicago Fire playoff vlogs in the coming weeks. So go and check that out. I'm currently running all my series on Twitch, on Twitch, and you can find me there at twitch.tv/RLKDragon. Don't worry about the branding. It is me. You will find the Gendo FM placard on the screen. And if you want to check me out on Twitter, I do tweet about the football every weekend and have some daily musings and whatnot. If you're interested in that, check me out at Brian_Gendo.
I'll put the links in the description below for the Twitch and Twitter, etc. So make sure you're over after listening to the podcast and the show, of course, and catch him on Twitch where you can catch a little more of the Chicago Fire save. We'll kick off like we always do with a couple of icebreaker questions just to ease you in gently. The first one is always my favourite. What's your favourite food?
Oh, my favorite food is pizza. Give me a good sausage or pepperoni pizza, or hell, even both at the same time. Maybe sprinkle in a little bit of green pepper and mushroom, and I'm solid.
Pineapple, yes or no?
No.
Good lad.
Honestly, I prefer pineapple if we're talking about with other fruits or by itself. That's fine. If you start sticking it into savory stuff, that's just not my bag. I don't like the taste of it, and I do find people that like that just a slight bit weird.
I mean, the idea to me of putting fruit, I know tomato is technically a fruit, but sticking fruit on a pizza to me just sounds weird. I don't understand it myself. Like, my wife has Hawaiian pizza, ham and pineapple, which just to me sounds really, really weird. Really weird.
And some people swear by it. I don't, and hopefully we can peacefully coexist at that point in time.
I'm a
Bring the
margarita
pineapple
man.
pizza and the non-pineapple pizza together.
I'm a margarita man. I'm plain and simple and boring. Give me a simple margarita, maybe with a bit of barbecue base. I'm happy. I'm happy.
Barbecue margarita. Got to write that down.
So what's your favourite TV show, my friend?
My favorite TV show going on at this point in time is Mr. Robots, which I don't know if you've actually heard of it, but
Yeah, I've seen it over here.
Okay, yeah, it's Rami Malek and Christian Slater coming together to try and take down this evil corporation. Rami Malek is an employee of that corporation. He's kind of thinking it's a dead end job, wants to try and break out of it. He's a kind of a shy guy, comes up and meets this very intellectual man in Christian Slater who runs this back end organization trying to take down these corporations to try and start a digital revolution, kind of. And it's 3 seasons in. I've already finished the first season, started the second one, so I'm not really caught up on it. But after the first season, it's very interesting, and I do recommend if you guys are tech savvy out there. For anybody that's listening, I completely recommend that. And like I said, it's only 3 seasons in, so it's not like you got a lot of backlog to look at.
We've got it over here on Amazon Prime. It's not on TV over here, I believe, but we have an Amazon Prime, which I believe is the first 2 or 3 series as well. But we haven't got.
That's exactly how I'm watching it too.
Oh, really?
Amazon Prime is a godsend for me.
It is. I love Amazon Prime. I watch Black Sails on there. I watch so much on there. I just finished watching The 100. Never heard
Man
of
in the High Castle. Man in the High Castle.
I've not watched that yet. I've got that on my watch list to watch, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, and that one's only 2 seasons in, and they're currently running, or I should say, they're currently filming the third season, which should be coming out the start of next year.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, have you seen Preacher? I quite like that. I'm a few episodes into Preacher. That's pretty good.
I have not. I've seen previews of it, but once again, that's like you were talking about watch list. That's on my watch list.
I've got so much stuff on my watch list. It's unreal. I've got so much stuff to catch up on. Outlander, big fan of Outlander as well. I've got Bosch, Hand of God, Goliath, Ripper Street. There's so much on me to catch up on. I mean, at the moment, I prefer an Amazon Prime to Netflix, to be honest with you. That's a nice segue onto films. I mean, what's your favourite film?
My favorite film of all time is The Godfather, hands down.
1 or 2 for you? Which would you prefer?
I prefer 1, but I know people can argue for 2 being the better of that series. But let's not even talk about 3 because that's non-existent to me. So
I didn't think it's as bad as people make out. It's not a good film, but people make out it's like one of the worst films ever made. Godfather 3 is not a great film, but you can't live up to the first, the second, and then do a third. Expect to be anywhere near as good as the first 2. It wasn't a bad film. It just wasn't a very good film. It's okay. I mean, the Italian bloke who becomes the mafia, the cousin, he wasn't the best of actors. I like Joey Zaza. He was pretty funny.
See, here's the thing. I think the reason why 3 wasn't critically acclaimed as the other 2 is because, well, it's being hindered by the Godfather title, so automatically that's a strike against it. And 2, if you take a look at the story, it doesn't really seem to stand up on its own. It's not a solid story to begin with.
Yeah, agreed. Are you a club versus country? Which way do you err on the side? I mean, a lot of guys that support the larger nations, like England, tend to go for their club. Guys who support the smaller nations, like I do, who support Wales, tend to go for country. What side do you sort of sit on?
See, because there isn't a lot going for us in the club sense right now, and I feel that I would be more inclined to root for country. And in fact, whenever the United States plays, especially in big tournaments like the Gold Cup, like the World Cup, it's a national thing. Because over here in America, if you wrap it up in the national flag, anything, if it's international sports, if it's the Olympics, there's going to be a sense of national pride, and the country is going to be rallying behind that. So I feel like, much like with what happened in the 2010 and 2014 World Cups, even though football over here isn't such a big sport, you wrap it up in the national flag, it becomes a national event, and everyone in the country gets behind it and supports it. As far as the club sense, the viewership for the MLS is starting to be on the rise, and of course, with the help of the TV deal to watch the Premier League, it's starting to gain some ground. But I feel like when it comes to going club over country, it's more country based, and that's how I feel as well.
Now, are you a PC or console gamer? What do you prefer?
Since I built my rig, I'm a PC gamer, but for the longest time, I was a console guy. I had an NES, an SNES, an N64, then got a PS2, Xbox 360, and I haven't really picked up any one of the current ones. If I did, I would be leaning towards a PS4, because when it originally came out, it's it came out with backwards compatibility, whereas Xbox One said, "Yeah, we're just going to stick that to the side. No one's going to care about it," and people did care about it. So if I did in fact get a current gen console, it would be a PS4. And like I said, up until I built my rig, which was about a year and a half ago, I was majority console gamer. But now I switched over to PC and have been playing, of course, Football Manager on here, Rocket League, BioShock. What else do I got? Fallout 4, Skyrim has I've been playing, casually ever since. So yeah, I'm more inclined to go PC gaming side rather than console gaming at this point in time.
I think I'm the same. I mean, prior to YouTube especially, I was initially a console gamer. I played FM on my laptop, and then when I started doing YouTube, obviously I got a bigger and better PC. And now I very rarely, if ever, I mean, I've touched my Xbox the other day for the first time in about 6 months. I just don't touch it because I've got everything I need on my PC. I've got FIFA on my PC, like you, Far Cry, Fallout, Assassin's Creed, all that's on my PC now. I don't need my Xbox anymore.
Oh, the Xbox I have just to play DVDs and
Yeah.
browse YouTube and get to Amazon Prime and Netflix. So there we go. That's pretty much all I use it now for is to watch media.
I mean, you started YouTube back in 2015, January 2015 to be precise. Now, back then, was there many other American FM YouTubers out there, or was you the only one? And if so, what brought the idea of you to do YouTube and specifically Football Manager?
There were no other American football managers that I knew of that I was watching at the time. So there could have been, but I just didn't find them. What brought me about to actually coming out and doing content creation for Football Manager was I was watching some Twitch streams of Jack, of Ben, and I figured, this is interesting. I've been playing Football Manager up to that point for 4 years, started with FM11, and I figured, okay, I see that there's a market that there are people that actually want to watch Football Manager videos instead of reading about it in blogs and whatnot. Because I was on Sword Out SI originally, shout out to Sword Out SI, and doing blogs on their site of various stories and whatnot. So I figured, instead of writing everything and trying to come up with some creative words to write down every single time, I could video this and try and create stories in a video sense. So I obviously watched Ben and Jack, and then the YouTubers that I have watched at that point in time were Just Another Guy and Evolving Mick. And actually, it was a conversation with Mick that led me to starting up my YouTube channel, because he had originally done a Pentagon challenge. So I asked him, okay, I'm going to be starting a Pentagon challenge on the YouTube channel. Can you give me a bit of advice on what I should be using for video, for microphone, to get started out with that, and also any tips to do this Pentagon challenge? So he gave me all that ideas, and after about a week, I got the confidence to start up the channel, and it's just been taken off ever since. The first few videos have been absolutely poor, not going to lie. I'm surprised I actually stayed for as long as I did after the first month, because I was only getting about 10, 15, 20 views per video. So it's more just about persistence, really, that I just kept going with it and just realized that I needed to better myself, whether it was a better microphone, better presenting skills, and then, of course, a camera came along, so better visual skills. So yeah, that's pretty much what brought about it. Those four people, watching them, trying to take a little bit of them and trying to make it into my own style, is what led me to start the whole YouTube thing.
Fantastic. I mean, just how big is FM over in America? I mean, how did you come across the game?
I came across the game because this is going to lead into a previous story. I originally started watching football back in the 2010 World Cup. That's when I originally started getting into the world of world football. And after the World Cup came about, I'm like, okay, so I know the rules. I know some players. I know some teams. But there isn't really any other game that I would like to play out there that I knew about, because I had the FIFA World Cup game. And it's like, okay, I would like to have something in the style of a management simulation, because I had originally liked the Madden NFL sim. I liked the MLB The Show baseball sims. And I was browsing a forum one day, and they said, oh, yeah, there is something like that. So it's called Football Manager. And it's coming to the end of this 2010 game cycle. So wait until 2011 comes out and go and take a look at the game, see if you like it. So that's exactly what I did. Got the game December of 2010, picked it up, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have a lot of help when it came to the forums because I didn't really know where to go. Or I should say, I didn't want to check it out. So I was basically fiddling around with it for about a month, then came across Sword Art SI and saw some tactics, saw some tips and tricks for scouting, for development and whatnot, and basically started to understand the game more because of the community that was already established there. And getting back to your question of were there any major American football managers, and if there are still some here in the current time, there really isn't. I don't think that FM has caught on as well in the States as it could have because it's a very niche game. And I think we all know it's a very niche game compared to FIFA. FIFA's big over here in the States, but FM not so much. I know of a few content creators going on right now, like Adam Pita. Dare FM had a run for a while. I think he's changed his name now after going on a little bit of a hiatus. Gray Hair Gaming, and if we want to go up to Canada and include North America, Two Man Brunch Party. And so yeah, there's really the only American content creators for Football Manager, or North American content creators that I know of. If there are others out there, haven't really seen them, haven't seen them pop up. So it's very unfortunate that Football Manager continues to be a niche sport or a niche game here in the States when it has the potential to grow, much like the sport of soccer here in the States. It has the potential to grow. It's just that you're not seeing a lot of people taking that risk and going out there and creating content for the game. I'm pretty sure there are people that have the game. They're just not coming out creating content.
Loki Doki spoke about it initially on my show when he first came on. He's also done a letter to SI, and he's also spoken about it again in his latest video where he talked about the new features. For people that come into the game like you did back in 2011, there's nothing there to really tell you how to play the game, which makes it harder for new people to get involved in the game. Because my dad used to play FIFA Manager for years way back when. Because when I was playing Football Manager, like in the early 2000s, my dad's playing FIFA because he found it a lot easier. My dad's in his 40s, he's not very computer savvy. But you do get people that even computer savvy people don't understand how the game works. And it's interesting to hear from you that someone who never played before 2011, where the match engine changed and the training changed and the tactics sliders left, how you got involved in the game, how it took you a little while to click onto it. So I'm also happy to hear that Loki Doki is going to be doing a how-to guide on how to play the game now. Because I think that's really going to help people, because you are going to get people who see the adverts on TV, who see this, who see that, and they're probably going to search on YouTube how to play the game or how to do this. So hopefully we're going to see a new lot of fans from England, America, Holland, wherever it may be, get involved in the game once they see the game's not quite as difficult as it initially looks. Once you get past, the first couple of weeks, you're good to go. But it is a difficult game to get into from the start. I'd have hated to have got involved in a game when you did back in 2007, because when I started in 2002, and I started in 98, 99, I think it was I started. When I started then, it was just click, 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 click. It was so much easier, but whereas nowadays, I couldn't imagine what's like coming to a game with fresh eyes. I just couldn't imagine it.
So many extra pages, so many extra things you could do with your squad nowadays. See, that's the thing that I'm pretty sure SI doesn't do, is because they figure their audience is 95% people that are, return users. They bought the game before. They know how to play. So they feel that for that 5%, is it worth it to put together a little guide on how to play the game? And they feel that I'm just speculating and projecting, but I think they feel that it's not worth it because of all the players that they're bringing back and have actually played the game before.
I mean, speaking of YouTube, do you have a specific YouTube save that you've done that you find your personal favourite? I mean, I've been a big fan of your Chicago Fire save, your Bass Boy save, but your Chicago Fire save, especially your intro video is generally one of the best intro videos I've seen for an FM YouTube save, because the intro save talked about the Chicago Fire, how the name came about, going about the history of the club, and that was awesome. I mean, do you have a specific save that you've done that you really enjoyed the most?
Well, I'm glad you liked it because I thought it was corny as hell.
I loved it. I like Corny. I mean, you've just seen Wolfie's intro video for FIFA. I love that as well. I love a good intro video. If you could do a good intro video, I'm hurt. And no offense to you, I'm not a big fan of the MLS or Football Manager. I find it far too difficult to play the MLS or Football Manager. But I actually watched your save. I really enjoyed your save watching it. So you did something right. You did something right.
And I'm glad about that. Like I said before at the start of that save, if I could have gotten at least one person to get themselves into an MLS save after explaining the rules of the MLS, then I consider it mission accomplished. And as far as what I feel is my best save, my most favorite save on YouTube, I feel like every single save, every new save, I should say, is my favorite. So Basque Boys, I really enjoyed the challenge of having only the Basque players and utilizing Basque players to build up a squad and win everything that I possibly can with it. That lasted 8 seasons, and if you haven't checked it out, please go and check it out. But coming in a close second, I honestly wouldn't say the Chicago Fire one. I would have to say the Sheffield FC save from FM16, taking them all the way from level 8 and getting them up into the Premier League. And that was it was a bit of a grind. It was a bit of a slog at times, but ultimately made it up to the Premier League. And I felt that was a nice little challenge of trying to take this small team who haven't really considered themselves very successful in the past and getting them up into the Premier League and keeping them in the Premier League. So I would say, yeah, Basque Boys, Sheffield FC, Chicago Fire would probably be third place as far as my favorites.
Fantastic. Now, you currently have over 1,000 Twitch followers, which is massive for Football Manager. You've also got nearly 2,500 YouTube subscribers. You've been in YouTube now, actually spent now for 2.5 years. You know, what's your secret? What do you think about you has made you successful as you are on YouTube and on Twitch?
Persistence.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was talking about before with my Pentagon save, where I was just starting out and I was only getting 10, 15, 20 views per, I probably would have stopped had I not enjoyed making the videos for it. And you got to be persistent when going into this business, especially with Football Manager being a niche save. You got to do it for the love of doing it. And that's basically what it was for me, being persistent and enjoying creating the content, not just on YouTube, but on Twitch. And I feel that, like I said before, I've changed my style up. I've gotten better in certain aspects, and I am thankful for all the subs, both on YouTube and on Twitch, that have taken time out of their day to sub to me and watch my content. But I know I could do better, and I understand the aspects of where I need to get better, whether it's graphically, whether it's content-wise. I understand what I need to do, and hopefully for the upcoming game cycle of FM18, I execute that, and hopefully there will be a lot more people that enjoy my content.
We've seen more and more people jump over to Twitch recently. You know, you've got Fat Man Dupe, Teach FM, One True Nerd. There's more and more people jump onto Twitch. I mean, you do Twitch yourself. Do you prefer YouTube or Twitch? What do you find more enjoyable?
I think both YouTube and Twitch have their own unique pros and cons. And for YouTube, I would say the pro is that you can have a chance to, scout in advance, to edit. Of course, if there's any, long-lasting dead zones and whatnot. I think with Twitch, though, you have the option to play the game as it is in a free-flowing style and converse with your audience in a real time, instead of with YouTube. Okay, you gotta edit and then upload it, and then maybe there will be some comments coming in, and you can converse with those followers and viewers at that point in time. But with Twitch, it's a constant flow of you do an action, there's going to be a reaction when it comes to your audience. So I do like that aspect, that you can converse with your viewers in real time.
I mean, speaking of conversing with people on Twitch, I mean, I've spoken to a couple of guys who are much smaller than yourself and arguably smaller than I am when it comes to Twitch and YouTube. And they've had streams where they've had not a single viewer in that stream. And would you have any advice for guys like that to try to get more people in the stream? what advice can you give guys that to give them a little bit of a morale boost, shall we say?
And this was a bit of advice that I've been told from Dr. Benji, and I'm sure Dr. Benji has said this on his streams and to many other people, and that is act like there are people there. So if you see that there's nobody within your streams, don't just sit around and mope and completely just turn off, completely look at the game and focus all your attention on the game in dead silence. Because if anybody then comes in and takes a look at your stream and notices that you're not speaking, you're not conversing with anybody, you're not talking about how you're playing the game, they're just going to turn right off. So I feel like if you have nobody in your stream and you want to get people into your stream, be active, be lively. Of course, you could also, if you have a Twitter, tweet out your stream, or just try to, get the word out there as much as possible. But if you're already streaming and you want more people to get eyes on your stream, just be active, be conversing. And hey, maybe there will be 2, 3, 4 people who come in and like your stream, follow you, and then they'll tell people, and then they'll tell people, and just becomes a downward slope of, there's more and more followers coming in.
Fantastic. I mean, speaking of, we've done Twitch. What about advice for any YouTubers?
For YouTubers, I would say take your chance. That's exactly what I did back in January 2015. Is I just took a chance. And I didn't even have the best equipment. I didn't have the best recording equipment, editing equipment. I was using Windows Movie Maker for the first 6 months, for God's sakes. That is the lowest of the low when it comes to editing. So, and I was able to get past that. I was using a Rock Band mic for a microphone, just sitting plopped in front of me. Obviously not the best quality. It was only $10 that I picked up at a GameStop. And yeah, so I would say if you want to, get started right now. And obviously you're not going to be all that great. Let's just put it out there and be honest with you. You're not going to be all that great, but you can learn to work on your technique after the days and the weeks and the months go by. You can see yourself getting better and better. So I'd say take your chance, go out and do it right now, and understand that you don't have to have the best equipment. You could start out with a Rock Band mic. I would personally say if you have the money to spare, get yourself a Blue Snowball. If you have yourself a camera or don't have a camera, it doesn't matter. Just go out there and go and create content.
Fantastic. I mean, look at yourself now. What would you say your biggest strength and your biggest weakness is?
I would say that were we talking about Twitch or YouTube? Because I think that
both.
as far as both, okay. I think that I need to come up with a little bit more intricate and concise ways to talk about the match, because in my Twitch and my YouTube saves, I don't really give a concise match commentary. I don't really know what to say at times, and I feel like I'm at a loss for words. I understand that it comes with the territory, especially if you're creating content. You need to be a man of words, and I sometimes am not. So I feel like I need to do better conversing wise. As far as my strengths go, I think that I've gotten a lot better when it comes to editing, when it comes to creating match graphics. I know that's not the main thing when it comes to YouTube. It's all about the gameplay. But I feel like that is something that should be a little bit more appealing to the viewers in creating graphics and creating an editing style that is very smooth and concise. And I don't know. I feel that maybe also at the same point in time, I need to come away with a little bit better strategy when it comes towards games. Because we all know nobody's perfect at this game. We all want to think that we're perfect at this game, but coming away with some better, match strategy and both in YouTube and Twitch, especially when people are yelling at you on Twitch in real time. Hey, buddy, why don't you switch from control to counter? Hey, buddy, why don't you go from wide to narrow? Come on. Why aren't you doing this? It does get a little bit annoying at times, but yeah, you got to realize that nobody's perfect, and maybe you probably should do a little bit better trying to come up with some tactics. So yeah, I know it's all over the board, but that's what I feel.
No, that's great. I mean, anytime we can give anyone some advice to help them, whether they be new thinking about YouTube or experience has, anytime we give some advice, I'm sure most people would be more than happy to take it on board. I mean, you've also done a little bit of work with FM Scout in the past. Do you think that's potentially helped your channel grow? Because I've done 1 or 2 videos and I noticed a spike in my subs growth when I did the 2 or 3 FM Scouts that I did. Did you notice the same thing with you when you gave it a go?
I would say that yes, I did have a little bit of a spike. It would be about 10, 15 subs every FM Scout video that I came out with. Obviously not as big as some other people, but yeah, it gave me an opportunity to have more eyes on my style of work and to then move eyes to my channel, whether or not then those eyes were, good eyes. I've seen a lot of bad as well as the good, but at least it gave me a little bit of exposure out there to promote my product and to promote who I am. Because as we've spoken about before, when it comes to YouTube subscribers and Twitch followers, that I'm kind of a bit of an unknown, and that's because more often than not, I'm not getting my name out there, and people don't automatically, give Gendo FM as one of their names of people to watch or people that are out there. So yeah, just working with FM Scout and putting out that content, it gives me an opportunity on a big stage. Let's be honest, FM Scout is a big platform to go out there and showcase my skills and hopefully get enough eyes on me that I have more followers and get more followers, I should say.
I know you've also done something for the higher tempo press. I mean, how did that go for you? How was the whole experience? What did you think about working with the guys over there? Because they've done pretty well there. They get consistently high views on their videos, so they haven't done too shabby. What's your views of work with them?
Higher Tempo Press, they actually reached out to me, Chris Darwin and FM Samo, who were the two catalysts behind starting up the YouTube channel in the first place, since they're traditionally a blogging site. They want to start moving towards a YouTube style presence of coming out with what if scenarios, manager what if scenarios, not just a player, and as well as tactical videos. And I was approached by Chris Darwin about that, and he said that, yeah, we're trying to branch out into this scenario and we'd like to have you on. I said, that's perfect. I would love to be a part of this team. I don't know how many other people that they had reached out to, but as far as I know, it was myself and Chris that were only working on the YouTube videos. So who even knows if anybody else was turned down or if anybody else was offered and they said no. But I'd like to thank Chris first and foremost for letting me be a part of the Higher Tempo Press for the first 4 or 5 months of the YouTube channel being up. But after a while, it looked like they weren't really ecstatic with how the YouTube experiment was going on. So I was immediately released. And it happens. I understand that they are a traditional blogging site. They get more views on their web pages. The YouTube was just an experiment. And I guess at that point in time, I don't have any ill will towards Chris or Higher Tempo Press. It was a nice little bit of experience working on my style, on my presenting form. And I can't really say anything bad about that. It helped me grow as a content creator.
Now, like we spoke about at the start of the show, we've just recently seen the video for the FM18. Is there any particular, if you could pick something to be added to the game, if you could pick a feature that you could add to the game, what feature would you like to add?
I know this has probably been said multiple times before, but I am a personal a proponent for it as well, and that's in addition to the scouting. We're seeing that the scouting, or I should say not the scouting, the training, because we've just seen in the video that the scouting has been completely redone, and that's another whole thing that's very, very interesting to me, where you can place a certain dollar amount to a scouting region. So it's not just, oh, I got this many scouts, let's just fly them off to Italy or fly them off to Spain and scout players there. No, you need to actually have money now in the bank to send these players out, or just send these scouts out to scout players. So I feel that's going to change the game for a lot of people who really rely on scouting, which for me in my Basque Boys series, that would have been a non-starter, because I only would have had to stay in Spain, so I didn't need to really spend money on scouting. But getting back to what I'd like to see in FM18, I know it's been a big thing from a lot of YouTubers, and that's training. I'd like to see return to, at the very least, how training was in FM18, where you can set positional groups to train a certain area up. So send your goalkeepers to do one thing, your defenders, your midfielders, your forwards off to do something else. I don't know how it was before that point in time, if it was a lot more in depth, but I remember FM12 being the last game that had that type of training style before it was then just removed completely, and we got the basic sort of training we have now. So if they can try and at least bring it back in stages, not all at once, I think that would be great.
What's your views on FM17? I mean, have you enjoyed the game? Some people love it. Some people are still complaining about goalkeepers. I know we see goalkeeper mistakes on a game by game basis at times. Let's be honest with you. But I've heard some people say that they don't think it's mistakes. They think it's more the graphics. The graphics make the mistakes look worse than they actually are. If you know what I mean. What's your views on FM17? The graphics, the goalkeepers, the match change, and all that sort of palaver?
I think after having played the game for about 1,000 hours this cycle, yeah, you do see stuff that just repeats every now and then, whether it's goalkeeper mistakes, whether it's free kicks from the top of the box that go in for goals. I mean, that was brought back from like 2 years ago. I've seen entire goals set up by playing it out the back. The opponent, gets it to the goalkeeper, and then they just get some 1 or 2 touch passes through your defense, and then automatically it's a goal. So that's really annoying. I think that FM17 as a whole wasn't a complete step up from FM16. I mean, I've heard the term FM16.5 tossed around. I gotta say that I agree with that, but that doesn't mean that I didn't have no joy when it came to this game. I did still enjoy it, but out of everything that could have possibly been done and possibly been changed, there was very little when it came to changing. So it just felt like it was it was just a FM16 times 2.
I mean, judging by the short video we saw of FM18, I mean, Bood said to me a while back that he thinks that the way FM works is you get the big release. The next year after that tends to be 1 or 2 minor changes. Then you get your big release the year after that as well. And it looks like we've got the same thing. FM16 was a couple of new changes. FM17 was 1 or 2 minor changes. But FM18 to me is going to be a couple of really big changes. And we keep hearing the word dynamics. Nobody knows what they mean by dynamics. Although part of me is really excited by the prospect of FM18 also, a very old part of me that's loved FM since Championship Manager back in 98-99 is really scared about too many changes. Too many changes to the layout, too many changes to the match engine. I would love to see, as you said, the training go back to the way it was, because that's how it works in real life. In real life, you have the strikers work together, the midfielders, the defenders, the goalkeepers. You don't just all like each player does not get trained on one specific item like they do in the game. That's not how it works in real life, as I'm sure the Northman Paul can tell us, because he's the manager of real life. So I'd like to see, like you said, go back to that. But I really think FM18 could be the biggest FM in terms of updates we've seen for many moves to come. And I'm really looking forward. I'm also a little bit apprehensive.
Well, it all comes down to whether SI has made those changes. And like I've said before, it all comes down to what are they actually going to announce in the coming weeks over what they made changes to. And I have high hopes. As you said, it's every couple of years they come out with a big release or with all the changes. So, and FM18 looks to be that change, or it looks to be that release with all the changes. So I have high hopes. Now, as far as the dynamics go, I know we just talked about that. Taking a look at the few screenshots that they posted in that video, it does seem to be like it has to do with a lot with player morale and player positioning within the team itself. Like you have a team leader, you have other players behind him that could be not just in a vice captain role or anything like that, but just influential players on the team. So I feel like this year, or this upcoming game, player morale is going to be even more of a factor than it was this past game. So very interested to see what actually happens with the whole dynamic stuff, and if that is in fact the case with player morale.
I like the idea that the screenshots that we saw, that you have the screenshot that they showed, they had like the Greek players all bonded together because they're all Greek. So I like the idea that you can have, like you do in real life, you get at Arsenal, the French lads all teaming together, and at United, the Spanish lads all teaming together. I like the fact that we're potentially going to get that FM80 because that's exactly what happens in real life. And if we can do to make the game more realistic, I'm on board with. I mean, I love the fact that Lelujo and Loki Doki do the whole thing where they go on their YouTube channel, they go looking to buy houses and all that sort of stuff. I would love to have something like that in FM where the wages that we earn, we can actually do something with the money that we earn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because right now, as it stands, the wages, you don't really do much with them. The whole purpose of those wages are, okay, how much compensation does this team need to pay out if we fire you? That's the only reason why that you have wages as manager.
Exactly. So, I've always given myself an extremely low wage because I was Luton Town manager. So obviously, the less money that I paid myself, the more money I've got in my wage budget. That's what I thought anyway. In my mindset, if I pay myself less, that gives me more money in my wage budget. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I always thought. But you're right. The money we get paid, the only thing it helps is whether you get sacked quicker or not. And to me, that's not how football works in real life. So I would like at some point them to do something with that money. I mean, back in the days of LMA Manager, I think it was, you could spend your money on houses and golf courses and things like that. Do you know what I mean? And you go out and buy a golf course, you go out and buy yourself a house and buy this and buy that. So it'd be good to see something done with money. But we've heard Miles many times say that's not really going to happen. We've heard people ask about having roles like a director of football in the game. But again, that's not a football manager game. You're a football manager, not a director of football. There's director of football games out there if you want to play them, do you know what I mean? But I would like to see something with the money. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to see us going out and investing in stocks and shares or nothing like that. But something as simple as buying a house or, I don't know, investing in something or even investing your money into a club because we see managers investing their money into clubs and so on and so on. So it'd be interesting, but that's
it all remains to be seen.
Yeah,
if they actually do in fact implement that,
it'd be exciting. But like I said, I'm an old git. I remember the old days of old football games where you used to, in the days of like FIFA manager, LMA manager, you used to do more than just run the team. You'd literally decide how the stadium's going to be built. You would decide who is going to be your board advertiser. When it came to advertising boards and the side of the pitch, you chose who was going to be advertising with you. You negotiated the deals for how much they were going to pay you to advertise with you. Because as I imagine back in the days of Sir Alex Ferguson, Brian Clough and so on, they probably did get involved, maybe not in the financial side of things, but who was going to do what in a more of a finer detail. So I would like to see that sort of stuff brought back to the game. But again, I'm just talking from a guy who's been playing football manager for 25 years, so I'm a bit old. I mean, do you have a particular favourite Football Manager 17 player that's not a new gen?
That's not a new gen. Yeah. Okay. Well, really, I'm only going to go by the two saves that I've been, doing for this both Chicago and Athletic Club. With Chicago, the real player that I somehow was able to sneak away from Manchester United was Bastian Schweinsteiger, which, funnily enough, I called this back in November when they said that Bastian Schweinsteiger was rumored to go to Chicago. It's like, I'm going to try and get him to Chicago in this save and see what actually happens. And I got him in 2018. Lo and behold, he came in 2017, so I wasn't that far off. And he was still pretty damn decent in that Chicago Fire save. He was only with us for a year, but he still had all his mentals. He still had his defensive stats. He was able to hold down in that defensive mid spot as an anchor man. So it was nice that I was able to bring someone in from real life, essentially call out the transfer in real life, which I found very, very interesting. But as far as the other best player that I had, Asier Villalibre, my main striker from Bilbao, which, believe me, he doesn't start off all that great. But if you let him train in the B side for 3 years, he will become one of the best strikers, if not the world, at least La Liga. Because in the 7 years that I've had him since, he has scored over 200 goals in the league. And he's had 4 seasons where he has scored 40 plus in all competitions. He's one of the best strikers in the world at this point in time, and if you get him in FM18, I would highly recommend that you get him an FM18 because he develops into a pretty decent striker, 3.5 star to 4 star potential, which he will routinely meet or exceed if you get him into a system into a with high training facilities, state of the art facilities, and give him enough playtime, he will reach that potential. So yeah, I'd have to say both Bastian Schweinsteiger and ACAV Libre as the two best players that I've had the pleasure of using within this game.
Fantastic. I mean, have you already decided what you want to do yet for FM18?
I do actually. I have both my beta save and my main save in mind.
Do you want to tell us who, or is it a secret?
See, that's the thing. I have an idea of what I want to do, but I don't have a set team to do it with. Now for my beta save, I want to take over a team that had a high turnover of this last year. So a lot of teams that have brought in a lot of new players, that being Man City, that being Everton, that being Milan, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple more in there that I could potentially choose from.
You just described the 3 teams I'm still debating about doing a beta for: Milan, Everton, and Man City. There's literally the 3 teams I'm looking at either doing a beta or my first save after my beta. So we've got good taste in teams, it seems, you and I. Good taste in teams.
Yeah, we'll discuss off camera which one we'll actually choose, okay? So no worries about that. And then as far as my main save goes, I would like to try for what I'd like to call a Fallen Giants save. It's basically a team that has won the Champions League in the past and has either fallen on hard times or just hasn't reached that level of Champions League success again. So the 5 teams I've been thinking about are Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest. In England, we got Red Star Belgrade, we got PSV, Steaua Bucharest, and I'm pretty sure there's one more in there. I just can't think of it right now. But those are the 5 that I'm potentially going to be starting out with. And then who knows, that might eventually turn into a journeyman save where I take over those 5 and try and get them a Champions League victory. But for right now, I'm going to pick one of those and at least try and get that team a Champions League victory. Because, like I said before, those teams, whether they're doing well in the league or not, they have won a Champions League in the past, and it would be very, very interesting, pretty cool to see them win another one.
I tried that with my FM17 save in the back end of FM17 with Ajax. My first season, I won the Eredivisie, well happy with that. Got to knockout stage of the Champions League. My second season, I finished 6th in the league and missed out in Europe altogether. So it wasn't, I think I got overconfident. And the problem being Ajax is all my best players, every transfer window would get nicked from underneath me because I'm one of those managers that if a player doesn't want to be there, I shift him out. And every transfer window, my 4 or 5 biggest and best players all want to leave. The squad kicks off because I'm holding players against their will. So this Ajax save for me has been the hardest one that I've done in FM in many years because I'm not used to it. I'm always a Luton Town or I'm always a Nottingham Forest. I'm not used to being a team where my biggest and best players get nicked from me. So it's really hard, but I'm enjoying it. So if you're going to go down the same avenue of a PSV Eindhoven or Stu Bucharest, I mean, that to me sounds really, really good. I mean, I'm looking forward to that if it does in fact happen.
Yeah, and I was about to say, for the Ajax getting your players nicked, it's just like in real life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not used to it, because if I'm Luton Town in the Championship, you don't really, it's not very, you might get the occasional player nicked from the Premiership, but every summer I'm getting 4 or 5, every summer and every winter, 3, 4, 5 my best players are getting poached from underneath me, and I've then got to go out and find players worth a quarter of what I just sold them for. So it's hard, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and it's not like that you have the money to be a financial powerhouse at Ajax. That's the only downside to that. It's like, yes, I would like to keep all these players, but where's all this money coming from? I don't have the money.
More importantly, where's the money go?
Yeah, where's the money go? The transfer budgets, I should say, like you're only getting a certain percentage back to then spend on other players.
I mean, I sold Drusy for £17.5 million. I'd have got like £8-9 million of that. I was like, where's the other £10 million gone? I've got £50 million in the bank. I'm not in the red. Where's my money gone? Do you know what I mean? So that aggravates me. But I'd imagine
owner pockets it.
Yeah, I'd imagine you get that in real life, don't you? Look at Newcastle with Rafa Benitez. Selling your players and then not getting the money back to reinvest. But I'd never
Look at Everton. Look at Everton with Bill Kenwright for the longest time.
Classic example of that there as
Hmm.
well. I mean, speaking of Football Manager and football among other games at Everton, I mean, do you have an English team that you support?
Oh yeah, actually Everton. Speaking of Everton,
There you go.
Well, this all goes back to when I started watching football in the first place. It was leading up to the 2010 World Cup, and I was like, okay, I'm going to need to find a Premier League team to support to, learn the rules and pretty much watch some of the best football going into the World Cup. And the reason I chose Everton was at the time they had arguably the two best American players on that team, Tim Howard and Landon Donovan. So I figured, oh, if the two best Americans are on this side, why not support them? So that's how I came to support Everton. Yeah, both of them are gone now, but the support still remains. Funny story, though, is that I also could have been a Fulham fan because Clint Dempsey was playing for that squad at the time. And of course, Fulham has a long history with American players in the first place. Brian McBride, Carlos Bocanegra. I want to say Marcus Hanneman was there as a goalkeeper. They just had Emerson Hindman go through as a midfielder. So, yeah, I could have been a Fulham fan. Though just taking a look at where Fulham are right now, it's kind of a good idea that I didn't. But yeah, that's the whole reason why I'm an Everton supporter in the Premier League. And of course, living in Chicago, have to support Chicago Fire is as my MLS team.
I mean, you said you got into football back in 2010. That's quite late in your life to get into football. What brought that on for you? Was it just watching the World Cup and you were amazed at something new because America got there for the first time in I don't know how many years? Was that just because it was something new that you hadn't really experienced before, that national pride and whatnot?
Well, 2010, first and foremost, it was a very bad year for sports in Chicago, so I really needed an outlet for some other sport to watch, because both baseball teams were bad. The American football team, Chicago Bears, were just coming off of a playoff run, but everyone knew that they were just going to start to go downhill. The Bulls and the Blackhawks in both basketball and hockey weren't all that great yet at that point in time, so I needed some sort of outlet to watch sports, because if the local teams weren't going to do well, I need to find something else to sate my sports itch, because I'm a guy that loves sports. If you couldn't tell, talking about Football Manager and whatnot, I needed some sort of outlet, and have watched football in the past, world football, every now and then. I was able to catch a glimpse of the 2006 World Cup in the past. I played for my my secondary school soccer team for a while, which would be called junior high here in the States. And so, yeah, I've had some experience with football in the past. It's just never been a first viewing, a first choice of watch, because as we have in the States, so many other sports that we can choose from. So that's why I decided to get into football leading up to the World Cup, learn the rules, learn the players. And, well, the U.S. did pretty decent in the 2010 World Cup. That's why I just continued on with it ever since.
And how you get on these days in terms of the players you've got and how are the US team looking at the moment?
I think internationally, the United States loves to develop every single position except the defense. Really, the only good defender that we have is John Brooks, currently plays for Hertha Berlin, but everywhere else, whether it's midfielders, forwards, or goalkeepers, we can stick somebody out there and they'll do extremely well. Of course, goalkeepers now need a little bit of work since Brad Guzan and Tim Howard are getting kind of old and bad. But I'm sure we'll have some young bald goalkeeper coming up and taking his place, because that seems to be a prerequisite for an American goalkeeper. You got to be bald. Just take a look at all the others in the past: Casey Keller, Marcus Hanneman, Brad Friedel. But yeah, midfielders are looking pretty amazing. I'd like to see Christian Pulisic continuing his stellar development for both club and country, because he seems to be the future of the men's national team at this point in time. Just need to continue on with him doing well for the club, developing as well as he is, so then he will take that experience playing for Dortmund and then transition that to the national team. I do gotta say, though, that a couple of the forwards are starting to fall out of favor with not just the club but with the fans, like Josie Altidore, which everyone that's outside of Toronto FC calls him Josie out the door, because he's not a natural striker. He really isn't, and he is a poacher, but he really doesn't poach goals. He's not a classic finisher. So we really need to have somebody new up front. And it's, the midfield, I think we're solid in the midfield at this point in time. So the United States men's national team has 2 games left to go in their qualifying stages. I feel like we should be able to get 4 points out of those 6 to get ourselves through into the World Cup proper. Otherwise, the way we're sitting right now, we might have to go through the playoffs, and that'll be the first time the U.S. has to go through and qualify via a playoff, which if we do, we're more than likely going to be having to take on Australia in that qualification
Oh
playoff,
wow.
which is going to be, which you figure that should be a match that you see in the World Cup proper, not in a playoff to get to
Yeah.
the World Cup.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, the MLS over the last couple of years is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We used to get the occasional big name, the occasional Beckham, the occasional Lampard, Gerrard, etc. But now we're seeing not just players in their ripe old age of David Beckham and Lampard. We're seeing young guys like Giovinco, for example, go there. Michael Bradley, a big fan of Michael Bradley, mostly for Foot Manager. A big fan of Michael Bradley going back to MLS. I mean, the MLS appears to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Do you think at some point we're going to see, maybe not a Ronaldo or Messi, but we're going to be seeing more and more players make the move over to the MLS to get more first team football and get more game time in a different country?
See, I want to think so. I really do. It's very wishful thinking at this point in time, but with the likes of like Diego Valeri and Sebastian Giovinco and Miguel Almiron, who's out in Atlanta right now, I think yeah, we are starting to see some big name players that would be on the verge of playing for the big five nations in Europe to then move to the MLS and create a name for themselves there. So yeah, I feel like we are starting to see that. As you said, it's starting to get bigger and bigger. And maybe if the U.S. relaxed their salary cap rules, because once again we got to go back to MLS rules. They got a salary cap that they need to stay under. I think if they relax the salary cap rules a bit, we might start to see some more of those bigger name players coming in that would choose to play in the U.S. over a team, say for Italy or for Germany. Though that, like I said, it's completely speculative and it's wishful thinking, but it might not happen in the near future.
You don't think it's ever going to happen at some point? Then you don't think?
I do think it will happen at some point, but in the near future, say within the next 5 years, probably not.
Right. Okay. Can you see any of the any young American lads making the move over to Europe at some point in the near future? Any names that we might not know of?
Young Americans playing for the MLS that could go to Europe. See, that's very very hard because, like I said before, there's not a lot of great development chances. Even though we have some decent academies here, of course, players coming through college and university that get drafted by the MLS, or they just make the jump over to Europe. If there is going to be anybody that makes the jump to Europe, they're probably sitting in college right now because I don't know anybody that is playing for the MLS right now that could do that. It's as sad a fact as it is, but I just don't see one player that's full on American to go over to Europe. I do say that I should say this, that Jack Harrison, who currently plays for NYCFC, he is English. He just went through the American university system, but he is full on English. He could potentially go to England as he gets older, but he's only 21 years old right now. So I feel like he's getting his development, his reps in with the MLS right now in the hopes that he will make that move over to England or just Europe in general.
What's the views on Bradley Wright Phillips over in America? Because he's somewhat of a big name out there, and he scores a shed load of goals for the New York Red Bulls, is it?
Yes, New York Red Bulls and Bradley Wright Phillips. Well, he is starting to decline. He's slowed down. He's not scoring as much as he was over the last couple of years. But when he first burst onto the scene here in the MLS, yeah, New York was very high on him. They were very happy to have him, and of course, scoring all those goals, you'd have to have a reason to be happy for him. But yeah, like I said, it was great for the fans to see a player of his caliber and of his scoring prowess. And also, I would say that he came in, I believe, the year after Thierry Henry left the Red Bulls as well. So New York Red Bulls got themselves two great strikers in like 4 or 5 years to bang them in some goals. So yeah, I feel like he did well for the club and he did well for the league, getting prominence to the league. But now he's really fallen off.
And who's your favourite ever United States player? Your favourite ever American footballer? Who's your favourite one?
Oh man, because I typically tend towards looking at goalkeepers. It's got to be Tim Howard, and of course I play a goalkeeper in Sunday League football, so I try and emulate Tim Howard as much as possible, and that's basically not running out as all because I'm a big guy, so I don't really like to run out as much. I let everybody else go out and have fun in the outfield. I'll stay between the sticks. Thank you very much. But yeah, Tim Howard when it comes to goalkeepers, and if we're talking about outfield players, Brian McBride because midfielder, center attacking mid, one of the best within the last 20, 30 years of the men's national team. Also, Chicago native.
Oh, really?
Yes. Born and raised in the Chicago suburbs.
Wow. I mean, my last question for you, one that being American, I've got to ask you. Freddie Adu, what's your opinion on him?
So much potential and so much wasted talent for Freddie. He had everything in the palm of his hand, and I think it was just poor mismanagement on the DC United's part and Philadelphia Union. Basically, everywhere that he went, Freddie Adu just missed out on reaching his potential. I think it's because he originally came in at 14 years old and he was being dubbed the next Pele, which first and foremost, that's a death sentence.
Yeah.
That is a death sentence being called the next Pele. You are never going to live up to Pele ever. And then when everywhere that he went, he did well within the first 4 or 5 years of his career, but then when the comparisons just start to go away and the attention started to go away, I feel like his playing ability also just didn't match up to the hype as well. So that's why you saw him move around from club to club year after year. So yeah, if I had to say anything about Freddie Adu, it's wasted potential.
I've always wondered whether the case was it either wasted potential or he was marketed the right way. Because Nike, from the age of 14, took him on. It was his massive name, thanks to Nike, pushed him to the moon and back. I mean, at 14, it's hard to know. We always hear stories of guys that weren't great footballers and youngsters that turned out to be, some of the best footballers in the Premiership, and vice versa. Guys that started off as youngsters. Ben Fordley's famous for it. Ben Fordley, ex-Manchester United player, was reported to be better than David Beckham when they were like the under-18s together. And then Ben Fordley finished his career at Berrytown, I think it was. And then David Beckham finished his career at Paris Saint-Germain or AC Milan, I think it was one of those. Do you know
PSG, what I mean? Yeah.
PSG. I've always wondered where with Freddie Adu, was it a case of he had that potential, like you said, from a youngster, or was he just marketed correctly, rightly? Because, he had that story of coming to the United States from winning what did his mum win a lottery ticket in Ghana or something, where he then came to the United States after winning a lottery ticket, which meant he could come to America, and he was then seen by Nike representatives who put a shed load of money behind him. And it's a shame, because Freddie Adu was the first FM Wonder kid that I probably came across, so that's why every episode I always go, without any further ado, I always go without any Freddie Adu. Because to me, I can't think of Championship Manager, Football Manager without thinking of Freddie Adu. You say to me, Football Manager, the first player I think of is Freddie Adu.
And it's very, very scary to realize that Freddie Adu is actually younger than me. I'm just about to turn 30 years old. Freddie Adu's 29, and look at how many teams that he's been.
I'm 33. He's younger than I am. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Freddie Adu has not turned 30 yet, and look at all the teams that he's had, all these chances that he's had to get his career path on track, and it just never materialized. I think that within the first 2-3 years when, like I said, he was at DC United, he did pretty well for them. But then once he made the move to, I don't remember which team it was in Europe that he moved to first.
I think it was Benfica, wasn't it? Was it Benfica?
Yeah, you're right. He moved to Benfica and was never featured in the first team. He was continuously loaned out or played for the B team and never reached his potential after that point. I feel like that move to Benfica was what killed his career.
We heard for years that he was once by Manchester United. He had several trials there, and nothing came to fruition. I mean, you can only imagine maybe working under the likes of Beckham, Scholes, Keane, Sir Alex Ferguson. What sort of player could he have been? Working under those sort of players. Ryan Giggs, how much Giggs, I don't know. But what sort of player could he be working underneath those sort of players and the coaches? rather than going to a country where he doesn't speak the language or know anybody there at all, and essentially been a waste of talent. But like I said, I can't think of the game without thinking of Freddie Adu.
Yeah, may he rest in Football Manager peace, because I don't even think he's on the game anymore. I think he's retired.
I saw him on FM. I think I saw him on FM16 was the last time I saw him. FM16. I did sign him. I was at Luton Town, the Championship. I signed him, and he was absolutely awful. And I signed him like this. I signed him at the very start of the game. It was in the summer, and by January I released him because he just wasn't. I played him literally at 9 every game, hoping he'd kick on. And it never happened. It just never happened. So I ended up releasing him, and I was gutted. I felt really guilty releasing him. I felt really bad. I was like, oh,
it's like, oh man, this is another team to add to his long list of teams.
I was like, oh no, what am I doing to the kid? The poor lad he's getting sacked again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was famously in England less than a year ago. I believe it might be even last Christmas. A trial at Blackpool. In a trial at Blackpool in the in League One, I think they were at the time. It didn't go anywhere. But in a trial over at Blackpool, so he almost came to England and got a trial, but he wasn't signed up because they felt he wasn't the sort of caliber player they needed, and that was at Blackpool, who were in League One.
Yeah, and not just Blackpool, but I remember at the start of this season, the MLS season, he tried out for Portland Timbers and didn't make the team. And then another story about him going to Poland and trying to try out for a Polish team, but after a week, I want to say, they said no thanks.
Really?
So yeah, he's been trying. And yeah, he's still technically in his prime, but I think because of the stigma of him and his playing ability is not up to standards anymore, he's just not going to make a team anymore.
Now, that is Freddie Do. I'm going to bid you all adieu. Thank you all for coming onto the show. It's much appreciated. Gendo, you're an absolute legend. I'm happy to have my first American guest on the show. It's been much appreciated. I've really enjoyed hearing about the MLS. I mean, I've heard a little bit before talking to FM Life about the Australian League. I always like hearing about anything other than the Premiership. You know, the Premiership is great, but it's always nice to hear about other people's thoughts and opinions on leagues in their respective countries. So I found that really fascinating. So thank you very much.
And Ben, thank you very much for having me on. It was a very nice chat today. I'm sure that the viewers have learned a little bit more about myself and the leagues, of course, in the MLS. And maybe, just maybe, they will actually check out an MLS match.
Well, the MLS match, you can catch them, not to plug it, over on Sky Sports. Sky Sports do now show an MLS game at least once a week. I see them advertised on Sky Sports, and they do show the highlights during the day, so make sure you do check them out and show Chicago Fire a little bit of love, not just on Sky, but also on Twitter, and make sure you tag in Gendo when you do it, alright?
Oh, cheers, mate, cheers.
That's right. Don't forget, before we go, boys and girls, Dioch.